Suffering is the inheritance of being human. No one escapes it. From the moment we are born, crying into the cold air, to the last breath we take, suffering waits in many forms. Loss, illness, loneliness, fear, betrayal, the quiet ache of ordinary days. And yet, despite its universality, we try to push it away. We bury it in distraction, drown it in noise, disguise it in smiles. Entire industries are built on the promise of eliminating pain. Self-help books, quick cures, endless entertainment. Modern culture insists that happiness is the goal, and that suffering is a flaw to be corrected. But what if suffering is not simply an obstacle? What if it is a teacher? What if hidden within the wound is a strange kind of beauty, one we only see when we stop running? Rumi wrote, "The wound is the place where the light enters you," a paradox that unsettles, because it suggests our pain is not only a deficit, but also an opening. Think of grief, how it slows time until every sound feels sharper, every color more vivid, every heartbeat louder. In the silence of suffering, life reveals its raw edges. It is not polished, not curated, but real. We do not seek suffering, but when it finds us, something shifts. The question is not if we will suffer, but how suffering will shape us, and what we will dare to make of it. Think of the first time you truly felt loss. The silence after someone left, the hollow of an empty room, the unanswered call that echoed into night. Pain arrives heavy, like a stone in the chest. At first, there is nothing beautiful about it. It is raw, sharp, unbearable. It humbles us. It strips away the comforting illusion of control. Suddenly, the ground feels fragile, as though the world could collapse with the smallest tremor. What was certain yesterday evaporates overnight. We realize how small we are against the tides of fate. And yet, pain also awakens. Think of the strange clarity that comes in grief, how suddenly every moment feels sharpened. The smell of rain on asphalt, the kindness of a stranger holding the door, the rhythm of your own breath as you try to steady yourself. Pain makes us notice what we once ignored. Dostoevsky wrote, "Pain and suffering are always inevitable for a large intelligence and a deep heart." Perhaps the very act of feeling deeply is inseparable from suffering. The greater the heart, the greater the ache. Pain crushes us, but it also presses us into new shapes. It burns away illusions and forces us to confront life without masks. And in that weight, in that pressure, something essential is revealed. Why does suffering change us? Imagine raw iron placed into a forge. It resists at first, hard and brittle, but in the fire it softens, becomes malleable. Struck again and again, it can be reshaped into something stronger, something lasting. Suffering is that fire. It burns, but it transforms. Think of heartbreak. At first it feels like death itself, the tearing apart of a future you had already begun to inhabit. But with time, the wound opens you to tenderness, to empathy, to depths of love you never imagined before. Think of failure. The humiliation cuts deep, but it teaches humility, persistence, the courage to begin again with steadier hands. Seneca wrote, "Difficulties strengthen the mind as labor does the body." And so suffering, for all its cruelty, is also a kind of training, not the training of comfort, but of resilience, the building of an inner strength that nothing easy could ever produce. Of course, not all suffering ennobles. Some destroys, some scars never close, but even then, even in the rubble, something remains. The knowledge of life's depth, the recognition of its gravity. Like the Japanese art of kintsugi, broken pottery mended with veins of gold. Suffering does not erase the break, it illuminates it. The cracks do not vanish, they shine. There is no beauty in suffering if we cannot endure it, and endurance is an art. Think of a marathon runner. The body screams to stop, every muscle burning, lungs begging for air, and yet step by step, they continue. Something beyond comfort drives them, something stronger than pain itself. Human beings have always endured wars, plagues, famine, exile. Yet from these depths, music and poetry emerged. The Psalms of the Bible, sung in despair, the haunting blues born from slavery, the testimony of Primo Levi, written in the shadow of Auschwitz. Suffering pressed humanity down, but from that pressure rose resilience, witness, even beauty. Viktor Frankl wrote, "In some way, suffering ceases to be suffering at the moment it finds a meaning. Endurance is not numbness. It is the stubborn act of carrying pain long enough to discover what it might reveal. Sometimes that reason is love, sometimes faith, sometimes simply the will to live another day, a refusal to let despair have the final word." If there is beauty in suffering, perhaps its greatest gift is compassion. When you have suffered, you begin to recognize it in others. The look in someone's eyes, the heaviness in their silence, the fragility in the way they hold themselves. Suffering teaches us a language beyond words, the ability to sit with another's pain without flinching. The Buddha taught that life is suffering, dukkha. But he did not say this to condemn existence. He said it to name our common condition. To live is to know pain, and in that shared truth, compassion is born. Think of a doctor who has known illness, a teacher who has known failure, a friend who has known heartbreak. Their empathy is not pity, it is kinship. They have walked through the fire, and so they can walk with you. Suffering humbles us. It dissolves arrogance and superiority. It forces us to recognize our shared vulnerability, binding us together in a fragile solidarity. There is a Japanese word, wabi-sabi. It means beauty found in imperfection, in the cracks, in the fleeting nature of things. A chipped teacup, a weathered stone, a faded leaf. Suffering teaches us this kind of beauty, not the polished, not the flawless, but the beauty that comes with time, with scars, with survival. Leonard Cohen wrote, "There is a crack in everything. That's how the light gets in." When we suffer, something breaks, but through the crack, light enters. The light of humility, tenderness, and truth. Consider the face of the elderly, lined with wrinkles. Each line tells a story of joy and grief, of endurance and loss. It is not smooth, but it is beautiful because it is real. This is the paradox of suffering. It disfigures, but it also reveals. It unmasks the pretenses of life and shows us who we truly are when everything else has been stripped away. And if you find meaning in exploring these hidden truths, consider subscribing to Fragments of Being. Together, we search the shadows for light and trace the cracks where beauty quietly enters our lives. What then do we make of suffering? Is it curse, punishment, accident, or is it something else, a strange gift we never asked for, yet cannot live without? Nietzsche wrote, "What does not kill me makes me stronger." It is often repeated, sometimes mocked, but beneath the simplicity lies a difficult truth. Suffering can forge a strength we would never willingly choose, but cannot deny once it is ours. Perhaps the beauty of suffering lies not in the pain itself, but in what it awakens, in the way it deepens our love, strengthens our endurance, sharpens our vision, and softens our hearts. Without suffering, joy would be shallow. Suffering is not something to seek, nor something to celebrate. It is something to endure, to learn from, to carry with dignity. It wounds, yes, but it also transforms. It humbles, but it also connects. It scars, but in those scars shines a fragile beauty, the beauty of being human. Perhaps in the end, the greatest gift of suffering is that it reminds us we are alive. To hurt is to feel. To endure is to grow. To carry pain is to know the depth of existence. And maybe, just maybe, that is beautiful.